New Hampshire Democrat Jean Shaheen, ranking member on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Nice to be with you this morning.
Okay, so you were in Denmark. The president then said at this speech at Davos, we were not going to use any military incursion to take over any part of Greenland. And he also said there's a framework that's come together. The Hill's headline says this: Greenland deal triggers global sigh of relief. Are you breathing a sigh of relief?
Well, we had a bicameral, bipartisan delegation in Denmark. We met with both Greenlandic and Danish officials, both prime ministers from Denmark and Greenland. And what we heard very clearly from them is that whatever the United States is interested in doing on Greenland, they want to partner with us. We've had a treaty with Greenland since 1951. We used to have 17 bases there. The United States, after the Cold War, closed all but one of them. We are stronger if we work with our allies and partners. And sadly, the president's rhetoric has raised real questions among our NATO partners about whether they can trust the United States. And that has long-term ramifications for our national security. Well, what we heard in our briefing was that there is no immediate threat from China or Russia, but we need to work long-term to address the threat in the Arctic. And if we work with our allies and partners, we're going to be stronger, not weaker.
Well, it sounds like the president's argument is, don't give that any time. Don't wait until Russia and China feel like a more immediate threat. Here's what he says. We're going to have total access to Greenland. He says we're going to be able to do whatever we want with the military, and they're going to start working on building that Golden Dome. So do you acknowledge there is, short-term or long-term a need for that?
Well, certainly there's long-term need to work on security, particularly in the Arctic, and that's why Greenland's geographic location is so important. But the reality is, if we undermine NATO, if we alienate our allies and partners in Europe and Canada, the only people who are celebrating that are Vladimir Putin in Russia and President Xi in China. They want to separate the transatlantic alliance. They want to undermine NATO, and the president is playing right into those interests.
Okay, so to the point about Russia, I want to touch on that as well, because there have been these trilateral talks, the U.S., Russia, Ukraine, top officials meeting this weekend. Reuters quoted one U.S. official saying, we saw a lot of respect in the room between the parties because they were really looking to find solutions. We're told they're going to meet again next weekend. Does this time feel any different to you? Do you think Putin has any intention of actually ending this war?
I don't. I think he continues to play for time. He continues to play the president like a fiddle. If we want to make Vladimir Putin really serious about coming to the negotiating table, then we need to be providing weapons to Ukraine, long-range weapons, and not just through the European partnership, but directly. We need to provide support to Ukraine, and we need to put severe secondary sanctions on Russia so that we can stop their war machine. And we have a bill in Congress that's been sitting there for a year now that has over 85 sponsors to put those secondary sanctions on, and the White House continues to oppose that.
I mean, it felt like at one point the White House was moving in that direction. Do you think that's stalled?
It sounds like it, because that bill, if we could take that bill up this week and pass it with overwhelming bipartisan support, and we should do that. We've had 3 bills come out of the Foreign Relations Committee with strong bipartisan support. One that would sanction China for its support for Russia's war machine, one that would go after Russia, declaring Russia a terrorist state because of their kidnapping of Ukrainian children, and the third that would allow us to use those seized assets from Russia to support Ukraine. We never thought Ukraine would be able to continue this war in the way that they have, but they have fought courageously. They have stood up to Russia, and it's in our interest to support that effort.
Well, listen, if that legislation would, if anything gets moved this week, I mean, we've got the weather situation, everybody trying to travel back in. The Senate has now got these funding bills that are sitting there. After what played out in Minneapolis yesterday, you had a number of Democrats say no way that they're going to move to vote on any of the funding package if DHS, which is tucked into it, is part of that package. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer saying they will not use Senate Democrats provide the votes to proceed to the appropriations bill if the DHS funding bill is included, which it is at this point. Now, you brokered the end, helped to with the last shutdown. What do you think happens if you don't get those passed by Friday? We do go into a shutdown, but there are more and more of your Senate colleagues, Democrats, saying they will not vote to move it forward.
Well, people are outraged by what's happening in Minnesota and by the out-of-control officers, federal officers that they're seeing on the ground by this shooting yesterday. It is horrific. What we need is an independent investigation. Mm-hmm. If this were a law enforcement officer in New Hampshire, that officer would be suspended and there would be an independent investigation that would be done of what happened. That needs to happen in Minnesota. And I think there is reason why we need to raise concerns about what the Department of Homeland Security is doing and how their federal agents are operating.
So, though we know the package of those House bills that sits there in the Senate, it's kind of an up or down thing. I mean, if you get to amendments, you're talking about kicking things back to the House, then back to the Senate, then to the president. Doesn't seem likely any of that is going to happen, certainly not all of it by Friday. I want to read something from one of your GOP colleagues. Senator Graham put on X this morning. He says, when you thought it couldn't get more chaotic surrounding the Democrats' obsession with maintaining sanctuary city policies, it just did. Democrats are now backing out of a bipartisan agreement to fund DHS, which makes sure our border is secure and our immigration laws are enforced as well. Your response to him?
You know, Americans want the border to be secure, but they also, I think, well, at least my constituents, believe that we can have a secure border without having the kind of chaos that we're seeing in Minneapolis. Look, we don't have any sanctuary cities in New Hampshire, and yet we've seen ICE agents come into our state and arrest people. I was at an event earlier this week where I heard from people who are concerned about taking their children to childcare because they're worried about what's going to happen. These are American citizens who are worried about this. So the situation needs to be de-escalated, and Senator Graham's rhetoric isn't helpful in doing that.
Have you decided whether you're a yes or no vote to at least move this bill forward?
There is going to be a lot of discussion that needs to be made. And by the way, Speaker Johnson needs to bring the House back in. He needs to stop sending people home all the time when there's a tough issue that he has to deal with.
Well,
come back in, let's sit down, let's figure this out, and let's get this done.
Yeah, the Speaker will say the House has done its job. So now we'll watch to see how this plays out. Well, the weather is a factor and all the other things.
He said that for a month back in September, too, when he just was AWOL, and he's AWOL again.
Well, I'm sure he's going to wait to see what you guys do, and we'll follow it and track it as we inch closer to a potential another shutdown come next weekend. Senator, thanks for being with us.